give you one of my tips of the day here. One of the ways to like make something seem more real for you is when is it happening? And I don't mean like the time and the day. Give yourself an event that's happening right before the scene or right after it, because you'll have more of an investment in the scene. So don't be like it was Wednesday at 3:00. It could be like it was 2 minutes before I had to take my final. And if I didn't get a 90 on the final, I was going to have to stay back and not go on my summer trip, versus it was right before a class. So the when should always be before, right before, or right after some event is taking place, and you'll have more of an investment. Trust me. Yes, this mind knows. So I'm so excited for Callback today, where we try to give you tips on getting that callback that you want, but also calling back a lot of the actors and industry people I've worked with. Today is one of my longest favorite little, now a grown actor. He started with me when his sister actually took my class. Since then, he's gone on to he was in We Crashed, Harlem on TV, some great roles in Superhero. He was Dimitri in the very first national tour of Anastasia, and you can currently see him, and you're gonna die. I can hear the screams from here. In the national tour of Wicked as Fioria. I never get that right. Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, the amazing Jake Levy. Thank you for being here.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, I have to go ahead.
See you.
Nice to see you. Say the name of your character.
Fierro. I cover Fierro on the national tour.
He covers Fierro on the national tour. Like, stop the screaming, okay? Well, like I said, thank you so much for being here. We go back such a long way. It's like for me to like watch you from when literally I was in Pennsylvania, I picked up the Friendlies menu, and there you were on the menu, to, you know, you going to UCLA, you getting your, wait, let me back this up. You getting your equity card when you were 10 years old, which I want to hear all about that story. Going to UCLA, doing all this stuff. It's like just mind-boggling to me. So,
yes, and you've been along for the whole journey, and what a blessing that has been, truly.
oh, thank you so much. So enough about me. You know I don't mean that, but let's get back to you when you got your equity card at 10 years old. Or just what made you want to be an actor? Let's start there.
I mean, and no one's paying me to say this, but truly, your class. I guess it really started with my sister. I mean, she had taken that class in Manhasset on Long Island, and I always, looked up to her. She's 2 years older than me, and I was like, well, if Julie's taking this class, I think it could be fun. And I think I was surprised. I don't think I was going to enjoy it. I mean, growing up, I was doing a bunch of sports and a bunch of different things on Long Island that were sort of not as acting-y, let's say. And but I got in that class, and I knew immediately that this was, something that I really enjoyed, that I could really see myself doing. And at that age, I was only really 8 years old. So I think it really turned very quickly upon starting your class from a hobby to knowing this is like what I am meant to do.
That's amazing. I do remember, because at the end of like actor garage classes, we do the showcase for agents and managers, which at the time, I was like one of the first people to do that. I should also say these were on camera classes for TV, film, and commercials, and I'm pretty sure you got an agent immediately.
Yes,
Right?
I believe. Shout out to Ingrid French, was sort of the first manager I had at the time, got through your class. And I mean, really soon after that, I just started, going to the city all the time for primarily commercial auditions at the time. And I was off to the races very quickly with sort of my first spot, which was a Pizza Hut commercial, at the time a Super Bowl commercial, which was even more exciting. So that was really awesome, right out of the gun to book.
That's amazing. Like as a commercial actress, I was a commercial actress. There was nothing bigger than the Super Bowl commercial. Like people would be like, "She got a Super Bowl commercial. She got a Super Bowl commercial." And I remember the same thing with you. And you were like, "Oh, okay." And like you're like, I was like, "Jake, this is huge."
Yeah, I think at the time I had no reference of it. And nowadays, being an adult actor, it's like, and granted, I'm not really doing commercials as much these days,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, a massive scale of doing a commercial at that size, and how like great in a commercial career that is. I so recognize that now, but had no reference for it at 8 years old, 9 years old, whatever I was.
Yeah, yeah, you were tiny.
Truly a blessing.
Jake, and then you went on to get your equity card at 10.
Yeah.
What was that show? I know I saw.
Yeah, Take Me Along. We did it at the York Theater. That sort of came as a surprise. I mean, Ingrid French called and was like, I know he's only really been doing commercials. Granted, was calling my mom at the time, not me.
Right.
But I know he's only really doing commercials, but I got him an appointment for a theater, a musical. I think he should give it a go. And sure enough, without hesitation, I actually booked it at the Callback in the room, which nowadays, knowing that is very atypical for them to tell you in the room that you booked the role. Yeah, it came as a surprise, and for me was such a moment in my career where I was like, oh wow, this I hadn't really done much theater yet. It really had only been commercials at the time. And I was like, wow, this is really awesome. And I think that I remember when I did get my equity card, I showed up to the theater for rehearsals early on in the process, and there were white and blue balloons everywhere. And I was like, whose birthday is it? I had no idea what was going on. And they said, no, Jake, this is for you. And I was like, for me, what? It's not my birthday. And no, this is your equity party. Again, had really no idea what it entailed and what it meant, but so fortunate later on in life to have gotten that at such a young age.
So, like, what is like a misconception about acting that you think people have?
A misconception. I think it's interesting coming at it from starting at such a young age.
Mm.
I think, we as kids tried fairly hard, or at least I did, to make happen what uh, you thought they wanted in a way, if that makes sense. You go into these auditions being like, okay, I want to do what they want, and be who they want. I think that as you go further into a career and you know, what becomes important is to really just be yourself, bring yourself to the character, and uh, and that's what they are going to want. They're going to want you and your interpretation of it, as opposed to you know, what you think they want. If that makes sense.
That makes so much sense. I always say that. I go, it's none of your business what they think. Your business is going in there and giving them you and your choices in this character. I always say, they're like, well, what are they looking for? I go, they're looking for somebody to make them excited. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody to go, wow, this is different. Wow, this kid knows, or this young adult really knows how to bring themselves to a character. Jake, I say that to people all the time. I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah, and I think it becomes really important, especially, and even in my later career here, in a show like Wicked, if we're getting specific, because it has existed for so long, and there have been so many people that have portrayed the role of Fiero as well as the other witches, Glinda and Alphaba. Um, and they, you feel almost you do have to fit this mold of how people have played it in the past. But I still think, there has to be a degree as an actor and as a performer to bring yourself to those characters, and bring, your specific, quirks and specificities that bring, Jake to Fiero, and likewise for the other roles.
Oh, I love that. And I think it's so cool that you talk about that in such a well known role. I totally agree. I've seen the Broadway show Wicked 9 times. So I've seen several different casts, and I've loved every single one. I cry like a baby during Gravity, but everybody sings that song differently. And I love that you said that. With what's the difference? Like, what's a big difference if you're auditioning between a self-tape audition and like a Broadway self-tape audition? Like, I'm sorry, what's the difference between a self-tape audition for a TV or film versus a self-tape audition for Broadway?
I want to say the biggest differences is size, and I mean size in I guess many different areas. I feel like for film and TV, naturally we're going towards a smaller, more subtle, and especially because we have the camera right there, um, you can have such a small frame of reference and therefore can pick up on the subtleties of your performance. Um, and generally, you're aiming for smaller reactions, smaller emotions that film and TV really looks for, as opposed to with the theater auditions. There is an air to animation in a way where you want to imagine that you're on this stage, you're seeing the different, well, I guess in both cases you want to see your surroundings, but you're imagining yourself on a stage and therefore have to have that sort of grander sense of air to yourself. And I think that, you want that carried across, even if it is just on film, on self tape.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to, specifically with musical theater auditions and any theater audition, to have a grander sense of environment, I will say, as opposed to the film and TV auditions where I am just in a small room, maybe talking to one other person, as opposed to a grander, larger space.
Yeah. You could imagine I like the grander part myself, but that's that. Oh, wait, I had a good question. What the heck did I want to ask you? Oh, so in We Crashed, I think, is that the one where you had the affair with Anne Hathaway?
Yes, yes.
So what is it? First of all, that was very intimate, I think we can say. But what was that like with somebody the caliber of like Anne Hathaway? That's not chopped liver. That's like Anne Hathaway. Yeah.
If anything, it's yeah, quite the opposite. She is, I
Yeah.
mean, cream of the crop in terms of A-listers in this world. She is
100%.
amazing, such a beautiful performer. And yeah, I think it started as that journey also sort of came about as we were coming out of the pandemic. So a lot of roles at the time were just being booked straight from self tapes and not necessarily having in-person callbacks or anything like that. So I, had only one callback with the original after sending in the original tape. And when they sort of said that it was happening, I was under the impression it was going to be a younger version, an actor, a younger actress playing Anne's character. And obviously it turned out to be Anne, because she still looks great.
Amazing. But did you flip a little bit, like panic? You know what I mean? Like, how'd you feel?
Yeah, my manager called saying it will be Anne Hathaway on set with you, and doing these, again, intimate scenes. One was sort of more, again, an intimate scene, and the other one was sort of this intense like breakup scene. These were sort of both flashbacks in this story, to her prior relationship. And yeah, I mean, just the idea that I would be looking at her in the real life was was enough to flip out about. And then the fact that I would be doing these sort of meaty, really intense scenes with her was exciting, just to be, you know, around her as she is also working. So that was really, really just an amazing experience.
That's so great. That's so fun. Um, so what about do you have a preference? Broadway, TV, film? What do you like?
I love it all, don't get me wrong. But I think if I had to choose a path, I will say probably movies is where, I want to end up, want to at least explore more. I think the majority of my career has been in, uh, theater. But being on set with, Anne Hathaway in that way felt very much like such an amazing experience that I want to continue more. So in that TV direction as well as the film direction, because it honestly, even being on set with her in that way felt as if we were filming like a little movie. It was special in that way, and so if I can do more of that stuff, that will be sort of the goal of my career.
You see, that's interesting because I did stand up comedy, if I haven't mentioned it. And I also did a lot of commercials and episodic TV. And there was, for me, nothing like the live, like the reaction, the applause, the laughter. I was very good. I was a bit like, if there was a heckler in the house, they would put me on stage because I could like heckle them down. Like that, if I had to do one or the other, which nobody's asking me to do either anymore. By the way, I do still do stand up sometimes. But if I were to be asked, I would say, yeah, I think I'll go with stand up. And I love the pressure of like every night having to like do it again. But
Yeah. No, and I will say there is nothing like truly live theater. And I'm sure that, goes to stand with also stand-up comedy, because I feel like, just having that audience there, and again, having the reactions be live and stuff like that, there will be nothing like that. And maybe truly, why I'm like sort of attracted to the idea of film and TV doing that more is because I haven't done as much of it. Um, so it is possible I'll, go down a path of doing more of that in my career and then be like, oh God, I just missed the live theater, that audience. And I think doing this show every night, doing Wicked every night, you start and then it's just a train that keeps going and you have to keep going on it. And there is something that is really exciting about that. So there is nothing like live theater.
so, in closing, I will say whenever I talk about you, and I'll talk about this to agents, managers, casting, I go, do you know Jake Levy? He's a young Hugh Jackman. He could do everything. He could do Wolverine. He can do, Music Man. He can do it all. And I'm so excited because you have done it all. And I'm looking forward to a lot more of it all. So thanks for coming on. I know you're on the road. I know it's like an exhausting thing to be on the road, and taking the time out to do this for me means the world to me. So thank you.
And I would do anything for you always. Thank you. Thank you. And truly, it has been amazing to have you here all these years and over my career. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, we're going to use that as the trailer.
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you. See you soon.